Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you back in time to March 2023 for a Ministry of Balance article which said, and I quote, Colbert is a tremendous ship in the right hands, but she has poor battle impact and a poor win rate, while her damage output is also lacking in all but the most experienced players' hands. And therefore, they gave the Colbert a buff. The base main battery reload time was decreased from 3.5 to 3.2 seconds, which is about a 9% DPM buff. Not quite, it's like 8.57%. But prior to that buff, Colbert already had one of the highest DPMs in the entire game. And now that DPM is better, I've actually calculated it for you as this friendly Hayate sets a smoke screen for us right in the beginning of the match. This Hayate was a great teammate to have, by the way. I don't know if he'll be tuning in to this video, but I'm sure he saw the results before the battle ended because he was the last one left alive next to me. And this match is going to be quite the carry. You'll see what I mean as time goes on. But we should note, as we're going to start farming the USS Montana out of this smoke screen generously laid by the Hayate, that we are running Hayase Yuka as the commander, which I believe is a BA commander, possibly part of the new wave. We've got Mikawa and Azurlane Neptune as inspirations. The reason we have Azurlane Neptune is because her base trait makes our AP deal 0.9% more damage per 1% HP lost, and her skill in the fourth row is called Asymptote, which increases cruiser shell damage per 1% HP lost by 0.8% and also reduces main battery reload time by 2%. So our DPM increases for both the HE and AP shells between those two skills, the base trait for Azurlane Neptune and the special skill on this Yuka lady. The DPM increases, and already with this build and with the reload mod in the fourth slot, we've got a 2.8 second reload on 16 127mm guns. Now, of course, it's not possible to get all 16 guns on target at one time, but if it were, and we calculate the theoretical DPM, the Colbert has 720,000 HE DPM and 891,000 AP DPM, nearly a million, not too far off of it. Certainly one of the highest DPMs in the entire game. And, well, we're going to be off to a slow start in utilizing that DPM in this particular match, but what I realized after playing this match is that if you've got enough DPM, it can solve pretty much any problem you've got in World of Warships Legends. You've got a pesky Yamato with 32mm overmatch that can overmatch your entire armor scheme. No problem, just DPM him to death. You've got something like Montana that has a ton of guns. Also no problem, just DPM him. Destroyers that become spotted and are trying to, reduce your team's chances of winning by countering your destroyers or taking capture circles. No problem. Enough DPM to throw at them. Dutch cruisers. Super OP these days, people say. Not fun to play against. Well, they can't stand up to the Colbert's DPM. We'll see that near the end of the battle. For the moment, we're just sort of playing here around the Alpha Cap where we spawned, benefiting from the spotting provided by Hayate. We've got Napoli inside of that cap, looking like he's going to take it, and that's why we're switching fire to him. One of the only issues with the Colbert that you could probably identify is how floaty these shells are. Even at slightly close ranges like 11 km, you do have to provide the proper lead. And against smaller targets like destroyers, the gearing at 8 kilometers away, well, it can also be difficult to nail down the lead. But of course, the gearing, for some reason, makes an unforced error and decides that he's going to shoot at us in return. Maybe he thinks he can make it behind the safety of the island, and maybe he can, but there's 2 additional salvos out, not from 16 guns, but from enough of them. It's not enough to take out the gearing. We've got Hayate, though, moving back into position. Montana pushing in slightly. Looks like he took a couple of torpedoes, or at least one. Hopefully that means he took a flood. That's why we're shooting at him, but we're quickly running out of map border. Not to worry though, Hayate to the rescue, another smoke screen. This guy, I don't know if he knows who I am or he just saw the Colbert and is aware of its incredible DPM. Is very helpful. Meanwhile, Gearing decides now is the time to come out again and show himself to the Colbert's guns within 10 km. Not a recipe for success, particularly if you're gonna travel slowly and make it easier for me to land these floaty shells on you. He's turning away, trying to throw off the withering hail of fire, but it's not gonna be enough. The Gearing is going to disappear inside of his smoke screen, but we had a bead on him, and so when these shells land, they're going to take him out for our first kill of the game. After just about 6 minutes have elapsed in this battle, there are 9 minutes to go. Both teams have lost 2 ships. We've lost a battleship and a DD. They've lost a DD and a cruiser. Meanwhile, we've got Napoli pushing into the Bravo cap. Alpha has long since been taken. Once again, benefiting from spotting, courtesy of the Hayate, and also benefiting from the fact that his smoke screen is cutting off Napoli's line of sight. Unfortunately, we take a torpedo from the Gearing, but don't worry, we've got a heal. And after all, with the Azerlane Neptune inspiration and the special skill on the commander, the more HP we lose, the more damage we do with our guns. There's another fire on the Napoli, that's 6 fires in total. And as you can see, these guns don't always do a lot of damage when they hit. They are only 127mm guns, and they only have 21mm of armor penetration. Certainly not a lot. It's enough to penetrate the superstructures of any cruiser or battleship that you're going to encounter, and it's enough to penetrate the entire armor schemes of most destroyers, barring outliers, like, for example, the Khabarovsk or the Paolo Emilio, both of which have 40 or 50mm plating on their sides in certain places. This HE would simply shatter against those, but the volume of firepower is so significant that as long as you're aiming adjacent or near to the superstructure, the shells will hit and they will do damage. And that's to say nothing of if a ship gives you even a slight amount of broadside. The AP, of course, is going to have a lot more penetration than the HE. It'll be able to pen more than 21mm of armor. And if anything gives you broadside, you can shave off their HP very, very quickly. We'll be seeing an example of that a little bit later on, but if you take a look at the ship lineup at the top of the screen and note that there are 7 minutes left, a little bit more than half the time to go in this game, or a little bit less, I guess. Well, there's me, there's another cruiser on my team, there's this Hayate, and that's it. And we've got 3 battleships, well, I was gonna say 2 destroyers, but only 1 now, and a cruiser to deal with, so we're outnumbered 5-3. Not exactly a great position to be in. However, we've got 2 Yamatos in the center cap that are behind that island, and of course these floaty shells, while they are a little bit more difficult to hit at longer ranges than something that has better shell velocity, it's also possible to lob them over islands, and that's probably what you want to do most of the time if you're playing the Colbert, is find island cover like this and use it. Ideally, you've got a helpful destroyer teammate like the Hayate providing vision, and then the enemy ships, of course, cannot shoot back at you. Even if they can, though, the Colbert, for some reason, I don't know what the reason is, I don't think it should be like this, but it's got 32mm of armor plating everywhere. Now, of course, 32mm is easily penned by any battleship gun that exists, but it's not overmatched by any of them except for the likes of Yamato and Musashi. So theoretically, the Colbert's armor can bounce any battleship caliber AP right off the bow or the stern or the angled side. In practice, however, I think the 32mm is sometimes a bit of a liability. You'll see an example of that maybe at the end of the game. I think the 32 is possibly enough to arm some AP fuse thresholds that otherwise might not be armed if the armor was thinner than 32. And, well, you know, if you get penned, you can expect to be taken out quite quickly. The Colbert is not exactly like other light cruisers, where no armor equals best armor. Not that 32 millimeters is no armor, it certainly is significant armor for a cruiser, but it's not the case that if you give broadside in this thing, you can reliably expect to be overpenned and have nothing happen to you. In fact, it's very easy, I think, to get Devstruck in the Colbert, and it's also easy to eat big AP chunk damage from pretty much any angle in this thing. It has a very tall superstructure, you know, and that's to say nothing of the guns being taken out. Anyway, we're on 4 kills now. We've got 162,000 damage, the Witherer Metal, high caliber. Damage is counting up. Yamato is broadside to us over the island. You can see just how absurd this AP DPM is. There's the Kraken Unleashed. We're not even close to being done. But we have clawed back the game here. Now it's only a 3v2. We've got our helpful friend, the Hayate, still alive. He's moved into the Alpha Cap to take it, which is helpful. I think previously he felt he couldn't move in there because of the Montana lurking around the corner. But now that we've taken out the Montana, well, he's going to take the Alpha Cap. And there goes Yamato number 2. That leaves only 2 enemy ships left alive. And keep in mind, a moment ago, this was a 3v5. It looked pretty hopeless, but not to worry, with the Colbert, enough DPM will take you pretty far. We're spotted now. That indicates that it's the final enemy destroyers somewhere in our vicinity, kind of looking out here over to the right, but it's going to turn out he's nowhere in that direction. The last remaining enemy cruiser, by the way, is a Houden Loo, a Dutch cruiser, the legendary Tier 1 with the airstrikes. Not exactly the thing I want to see. He can potentially lob airstrikes at us from complete stealth. Minagumo, however, is spotted by the Hayate, and the Hayate, unfortunately, is going to make his last play of the battle. He goes down fighting valiantly with the Minagumo. He actually gets the kill, denying us a 7th kill, but that's okay. We've got more than enough at 6 right now. And, well, the Hayate makes his mark on the battle, taking out the Minagumo and going back to port, leaving just me against the Houden Loo. Now, we've got the Alpha Cap. The enemy team has Bravo, and they've got Charlie. It's 324 to 507 and counting for both. We're going to need to get into the Bravo Cap and flip it. But there are just under 3 minutes left to go in this battle, so even if we flip the Bravo Cap and do nothing else, I don't know that we've got enough time to make up about 200 points before time expires. There's Houden Loo, though, lurking outside of the capture circle, trying to get vision on us. He does, and he sends his airstrike planes this way, as well as breaks our engine with, I think, HE there. A little bit annoying, but it's fine. He reverses, he can no longer see us, and we're in the process of flipping the cap. By the time we get it flipped, there's going to be under 2 minutes left to go, and that is leading me to believe we would not have enough time to win on points. So we shall activate the engine boost for Colbert, which will allow us to go around, I think, 40 knots or so, maybe even a little bit in excess of that. And we're just going to travel all the way through the capture circle. Ideally, we'll take it. But at this point, I think the only way we guarantee the win is by sinking the Houden Loo. And we've got the DPM to do it. If we can get around this island and we can get some clear shots on the Houden Loo while protecting ourselves from any catastrophic damage in return, then I have no doubt the Colbert will be able to obtain its 7th kill in this battle and finish it out with a comeback victory for the blue team. Again, DPM really does solve all problems. If you're outnumbered, 5-3, DPM from the Colbert. There's the Houden Loo. He's got us spotted with his sonar, which means he's going to be able to launch these airstrikes at us. But they do take a little bit of time to lead and eventually drop their bombs, so in something as maneuverable as the Colbert, they aren't the worst thing in the world to dodge. Good thing we're not a lumbering battleship. Now we're going to come around the corner here to the Houden Loo with just over 40 seconds left to go in this match. Not a lot of time to take away the remaining HP of a heavy cruiser like this, which realistically probably still has about a third of his HP left. And, well, no problem for the Colbert. We're going to need to aim into his superstructure with the HE so that we actually get damage in pens. We're on 15 fires. We could get a 16th. That would be helpful. But every time Howden Lu turns and gives us even a slight amount of broadside, the AP absolutely shreds through him, and we take him out. Just as he takes us out. You see what I mean there about the 32mm armor potentially being a liability? I think we were angled enough, but I guess not. And since we took out the Howden Lu before he took us out, we achieve the last second victory with the Kraken Unleashed, 7 kills, high caliber Confederate, and the Witherer medal. 7 kills is the most amount of kills I've ever gotten in a single battle in World of Warships Legends. I've done it once before this match. It was back in the day in the Königsberg at Tier 4, but unfortunately, I wasn't making videos at the time, so this is the only thing I've got on YouTube, I think, where I've done 7 kills. Hope you enjoyed this battle with the Colbert, which is a perfectly balanced ship that's not in need of any kind of nerf. Give the video a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.